The world had never been so silent. From the tallest buildings of New York to the wide deserts of Africa, every screen, every speaker, and every radio station was focused on one event: the arrival of the Solari princess. Her name was Princess Leora, and she belonged to the Solari, a proud alien race who had watched humanity for centuries from the stars. Unlike other species that visited with machines or threats, the Solari valued culture, respect, and formality above all things. They had agreed to meet humans only under one condition: that their princess herself would come and teach Earth how to deal with her people. For many humans, this was both exciting and frightening. They had heard stories that the Solari were strict about behavior. A wrong gesture could be taken as an insult. A careless word might ruin trust forever. Leaders worried that humans, with their clumsy ways and casual speech, would never survive such careful traditions. Still, the day had come. The ship arrived quietly, without thunder or flashing weapons. It appeared above the United Nations building like a silver petal opening in the sky. Its surface shone like water, shifting with colors that seemed alive. From within, a single figure descended. Princess Leora was unlike anything humans had ever seen. She was tall, her features delicate yet strong. Her skin glowed with a soft light as if moonlight lived beneath it. Her eyes were large and calm, holding both wisdom and sadness. She wore robes that shimmered with silver and blue, moving like liquid with every step. Crowds waited, holding their breath. Soldiers stood in lines, leaders sat in rows, and cameras captured every movement. No one dared to speak too loudly. At the center of the hall, the Secretary General stepped forward. He gave a careful bow, one taught by cultural experts after weeks of study. "Welcome, Princess Leora, to our world. We are honored by your presence." The princess bowed her head gently, and her voice, soft but clear, filled the chamber. "I accept your welcome. I have come not as a ruler, but as a teacher. Your kind wishes to meet my people. My people wish to know yours. But harmony cannot be built without understanding. I will teach you the ways to approach us, so that trust may grow between our worlds." Applause rose, hesitant at first, then stronger. Yet under the clapping there was tension. Everyone knew this was only the beginning. One mistake could break everything. Among the many officials sat a young man who was not meant to be important. His name was Daniel Hale, a junior cultural diplomat. He was not famous nor powerful, but his supervisors had chosen him to be among the first group to work with the princess. The reason was simple. Daniel was honest. He spoke plainly, without pride, and without fear. His superiors thought that maybe the princess would value that. Daniel, however, was nervous. His heart pounded as he watched Leora. She seemed so graceful, so perfect. How could he, with his clumsy human ways, ever speak without making a mistake? The first session was held that evening. A small group of humans, including Daniel, were invited into a round hall aboard the Solari ship. The air inside was cool and carried a faint, sweet scent, like flowers that never wilted. The walls glowed with soft light, and patterns shifted across them like living art. Leora entered the hall and raised her hands in greeting. "You are here because you represent your world. You wish to learn the ways of the Solari. Know this, our people are not angered by difference. We are angered only by carelessness. Show effort, even in mistakes, and you will be forgiven. Show laziness, and you will be forgotten." The words settled over the group like a weight. Some nodded, others shifted uncomfortably. Daniel listened carefully. For the first time, he felt a spark of hope. Perhaps humans did not need to be perfect. Perhaps they only needed to try. The princess began the first lesson. She taught them the gesture of peace, a simple movement used by Solari when greeting strangers. It involved raising both hands slowly, palms open, and bowing the head just slightly, not too low, not too high. The humans practiced, one by one. Some got it right. Others bent too far or moved too fast. Each time Leora corrected them patiently. She never raised her voice. She never mocked. Instead, she explained gently, "Harmony lives in balance. Too much bowing shows fear. Too little shows pride. Both are dangerous." When Daniel's turn came, his palms were sweaty. He raised his hands, bowed his head, but the movement was uneven. He almost dropped his hand too quickly. The room went silent. Daniel's stomach sank, but Leora only tilted her head. "You tremble, but you do not hide it. You are nervous, but you are honest. That is good. The Solari value truth more than false. Calm." Daniel blinked in surprise. She had not judged him for being imperfect. She had praised him for being real. The others began to understand too. The lesson was not about perfect steps, but about sincerity. Over the next hours, Leora taught them small customs, how to offer water in a Solari vessel, how to listen without interrupting, how to close a meeting with a gesture of respect. Each act seemed simple, yet carried deep meaning. By the end of the session, Daniel was exhausted but strangely proud. He had not been perfect. None of them had, but they had learned, and the princess had smiled. As they left the ship, the group whispered among themselves. Some worried the tasks were too hard. Others felt hopeful. Daniel walked silently, his mind racing. That night, he looked up at the Solari ship floating above the city. He thought of Leora's words. "Show effort, even in mistakes, and you will be forgiven." For the first time since her arrival, he felt less afraid. Maybe humans could do this after all. Maybe, just maybe, they could win the respect of the Solari, not by pretending to be perfect, but by showing their true hearts. And somewhere high above, in her chamber aboard the shining ship, Princess Leora watched the city lights below. She whispered softly to herself, words no human could hear. "Perhaps they are not what my people expect. Perhaps they are more." The next morning, Daniel arrived early at the Solari ship. Unlike the large halls of the previous day, today's session was held in a garden room, filled with alien plants that seemed to hum quietly, as if they were alive. Soft light fell from above, illuminating leaves that shimmered in colors humans had never seen. The air smelled sweet yet fresh, making it hard not to breathe deeply and relax. Princess Leora stood at the center of the room, watching the humans arrive. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held curiosity. Unlike yesterday, today she would speak more directly about understanding her people's ways, and the humans felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Welcome," Leora said softly, her voice like wind over smooth stones. "Yesterday you learned gestures of peace. Today, you will learn how the Solari communicate with respect and understanding. This is not done with words alone. You must feel it and act it." Daniel swallowed nervously. "Feel it and act it," he repeated under his breath. He had to remind himself that this was not a test to be perfect, but a lesson in presence and attention. The first exercise involved tone and patience. Leora instructed each human to greet her using both words and gestures. They were to speak slowly, choose words carefully, and maintain a calm, steady tone. The Solari considered hasty speech rude, even if the words were kind. Daniel went first. He raised his hand slowly, bowed lightly, and spoke, "Princess Leora, we are honored to learn from you." Leora inclined her head slightly. "You speak clearly, but your thoughts rush beneath the surface. Slow your mind as well as your voice." Daniel nodded. He realized she was not criticizing the words, but the heart behind them. He took a deep breath, paused, and tried again. This time, his voice was steadier and he felt a strange calm grow inside him. Leora smiled. It was the smallest gesture, but it carried approval. The other humans followed, some with better control, others struggling. When one man spoke too quickly, Leora did not scold him. Instead, she asked him to pause and feel the weight of his words. When another woman bowed too deeply, she gently raised her head and explained how balance was essential. By noon, the humans were tired. Their minds were stretched in ways unfamiliar. Every gesture, every tone, every pause carried meaning. But they began to understand an important truth. It was not perfection that mattered. It was effort, awareness, and care. After a short break, Leora introduced the next lesson, offering gifts of thought and intention rather than material objects. The Solari did not value wealth or power as humans did. They valued sincerity, creativity, and careful thought. Your world often thinks that large gifts impress, Leora explained. A Solari does not measure a gift in size. We measure it in intention. A small token chosen with care can speak more than the largest treasure. Daniel felt a spark of excitement. He had often worried that humans would fail because they could not offer treasures the Solari valued. Now he realized there was another way. Heartfelt effort could surpass wealth or status. The humans were given an assignment. Each had to create a small token of respect using items from Earth. Some folded delicate origami, others drew pictures, and a few wrote short poems. Daniel carefully carved a small wooden figure of a human holding hands with a Solari, symbolizing cooperation and friendship. When Leora examined the offerings, she did not praise the most intricate or expensive. Instead, she selected those that clearly showed care and thought. Daniel's wooden figure made her pause. She turned it in her hands and smiled gently. "You understand the meaning," she said softly. "This is what the Solari value most." The group continued with listening exercises. Leora explained that the Solari often spoke slowly, but they expected listeners to hear every nuance. Humans practiced responding to statements without interrupting or adding unnecessary words. This was surprisingly hard for humans who were used to quick conversation and constant chatter. Daniel found himself listening more than speaking. He noticed small things, the tilt of Leora's head when she considered something, the subtle changes in her tone, even the way her hands moved when she was pleased. He began to realize that the Solari communicated not only with words, but with attention and presence. As the afternoon progressed, Leora introduced a small challenge. She told the humans a story of a Solari festival, full of intricate traditions, and then asked them to act out parts of it correctly. The humans stumbled at first. They misread gestures, paused at the wrong times, or forgot phrases. Tension built in the garden room. Some humans whispered in panic. Daniel, however, remembered Leora's words. "Show effort, even in mistakes, and you will be forgiven." He took a deep breath, observed carefully, and began moving through the steps deliberately, adjusting as he saw others falter. Slowly, the humans began to improve. Mistakes happened, but Daniel encouraged them to stay calm and sincere. When one participant dropped a symbolic item, Daniel quickly recovered it, bowed correctly, and continued the performance. Leora watched silently. At the end of the exercise, she clapped her hands softly. "You have learned more than movements and words today. You have learned patience, observation, and care. These are what the Solari notice first. Your people have spirit and heart. That is rare among outsiders." The humans felt a mixture of relief and pride. No one had been perfect, yet they had succeeded in ways they did not expect. As the sun began to set, Leora gathered them in a quiet corner. The sky above the garden room glowed with soft alien light, as if the stars themselves were bending to watch. "I see promise in your kind," Leora said. "Many outsiders try to mimic us. They focus on copying gestures, words, or appearances, but Solari see through imitation. We value sincerity. If you act with care, with thought, and with heart, even errors will speak to us more than perfect performance." Daniel felt a warmth in his chest. He realized that humans, despite their clumsiness or impatience, had something unique to offer: resilience, honesty, and creativity. "Your task," Leora continued, "is not only to learn our ways, but to understand that your differences can be strengths. You may fear failure, but your humanity can turn mistakes into bridges. Remember this, and you will succeed where others fail." Daniel looked around at his fellow learners. Some were exhausted, others confused, but All had caught a glimpse of something larger, an idea that humans could connect with a race far older and wiser than themselves, not through wealth or perfection, but through care, thought, and effort. The session ended quietly. The humans walked down the corridors of the ship, past glowing walls and humming plants. Outside, the city lights blinked in the distance, but Daniel hardly noticed. His mind was full of thoughts, lessons, and possibilities. That night, he sat alone in his temporary quarters aboard the ship. He carved a few more small figures, thinking of ways to show his respect and understanding. He realized that the Solari did not need grand displays. They needed truth and attention. He thought of Leora's eyes, calm, curious, and strangely warm. She had seen through his fear and rewarded his effort. Daniel knew that the lessons were only beginning, but he felt ready. Above the ship, the stars stretched endlessly. Leora stood at a balcony looking down at Earth. She whispered softly, words that Daniel could not hear but perhaps could feel. Humans are unpredictable, yet remarkable. Their hearts are restless, their minds creative, and their efforts sincere. Perhaps they can teach my people something too. For Daniel and the humans, the first lessons were over, but in their hearts, a spark had been lit. They were learning not just to appease an alien species, but to understand what made humans special. The real journey, the one that would test patience, creativity, and heart, had only just begun. The Solari ship floated silently above the Earth, like a silver leaf resting on the wind. Inside, the humans had grown more comfortable with the alien environment, though they remained cautious. Every corner of the ship shimmered with subtle lights, and plants hummed in patterns that seemed to reflect moods rather than sounds. Princess Leora greeted the humans in the morning with a small smile. "Today you will not only learn our ways," she said, her voice calm and melodic, "but you will teach me yours." The announcement surprised many. The humans had expected only lessons, but now they would share their culture with her. Daniel felt a rush of excitement mixed with anxiety. Could he truly explain human ways to someone as wise and careful as Leora? The first task was simple but revealing. The humans had to introduce one personal tradition or custom to the princess. Some showed crafts, others shared songs or dances. When it was Daniel's turn, he explained the human habit of telling stories. "In our world," he said, "stories are how we share lessons, dreams, and hopes. We pass knowledge not just with rules, but with imagination. Through stories, we connect hearts, even when we are far apart." Leora listened carefully, her head tilting slightly, her glowing eyes focused on him. "Stories," she repeated softly, "a structured dance of words and thought. Show me this." Daniel and the others began to act out small stories. Some were traditional fairy tales. Others were personal experiences. The princess watched with fascination. She laughed softly when humans stumbled over words or gestures. She asked questions, curious and sincere. "It is different from Solari communication," she said finally. "We exchange information with precision and clarity, but your stories, they carry emotion and subtle meaning. They allow connection even without perfect understanding. That is intriguing." As the day went on, the exchange grew richer. Leora asked Daniel to show her human meals, and he introduced her to bread, cheese, and fruits. She tasted slowly, studying each flavor, nodding at certain textures. "You eat in layers of thought," she observed. "You do not simply consume. You notice, appreciate, and share. This is remarkable. Among my people, consumption is necessary, not reflective." The humans smiled nervously, proud that something so ordinary could impress her. They realized that their daily habits, their small rituals, had value in the eyes of another species. The next exercise was even more fascinating. Leora wanted to learn human humor. "Humor," she said carefully, "is a strange concept to the Solari. We understand logic, balance, and respect. Laughter is not usually part of our exchanges. Show me how it works." Daniel stepped forward. "Humor is noticing something unexpected, or finding joy in small surprises. We often laugh, together to show understanding or friendship. He told a small, gentle joke about a clumsy robot trying to serve tea. The princess blinked, then a soft, musical sound escaped her lips. It was the closest thing to a laugh Daniel had heard. The room brightened instantly. Leora's interest in humans grew with every shared story and joke. Throughout the day, she asked questions about human holidays, songs, and even games. She was fascinated by how humans used play, creativity, and teamwork to learn and bond. Daniel realized something important. The Solari had strength and discipline, but humans had a unique ability to connect through imagination and joy. The afternoon brought a new challenge. Leora asked humans to teach her a cooperative game, a test of teamwork and adaptability. Daniel suggested a simple building exercise using blocks and small shapes. The task was not to create perfection, but to work together to build something meaningful. The humans struggled at first, as some wanted to lead, others hesitated, and a few doubted their ideas. Daniel encouraged patience, listening, and small suggestions instead of criticism. Leora watched silently, observing how humans navigated disagreements and solved problems through dialogue and compromise. When the structures finally took shape, Leora examined them carefully. "You use differences to create something stronger," she said. "Your kind does not fear imperfection, but uses it as part of growth. This is remarkable." Daniel felt a surge of pride. They were succeeding not by following Solari rules, but by showing human creativity, resilience, and cooperation. He realized the lesson of the day was as important as any gesture or tone. It was the ability to adapt, to think, and to care collectively that impressed the princess most. As evening fell, Leora gathered the humans for a reflective session. "I have seen something today that I did not expect," she said softly. "Humans do not follow only rules. You create meaning where there is none. You find connection in laughter, in stories, in small gestures. My people do not understand this, but it enriches me. Your differences are not flaws, they are strengths." Daniel and the others listened, amazed. They had feared their imperfections would make them fail, but instead, those same qualities had impressed Leora. For the first time, Daniel understood the true purpose of these lessons. It was not simply to teach humans to obey Solari customs, but to show the value of human spirit and ingenuity. The final exercise of the day involved both humans and the princess. Leora asked them to exchange rituals simultaneously. The Solari taught a gesture, and humans taught one in return. At first it was chaotic. Hands moved in conflicting patterns, words clashed, and pauses were mistimed, but then Daniel took a deep breath and led the group calmly. He guided them to focus not on perfection, but on awareness, attention, and sincerity. The humans adjusted, and even Leora adapted to their rhythms. By the end, both species were moving in harmony, not because they were mimicking each other, but because they were listening, observing, and connecting. Leora smiled broadly. "Today, I have learned something precious. Humans do not simply follow instructions. You improvise, you adjust, you care. You build bridges where others see walls. This is rare and beautiful. Your people are capable of things my people have forgotten." Daniel felt a warmth in his heart. He looked around at the other humans who were smiling, exhausted, but proud. They had not mastered the Solari ways perfectly, yet, in the eyes of the princess, they had achieved something greater. They had shared the best of humanity. As night fell aboard the ship, Daniel stayed by the observation deck, watching Earth below. Lights blinked across continents, small and distant yet alive. He thought about the lessons learned and those yet to come. There would be challenges, but he felt ready. Leora joined him quietly. She looked at the planet, then at him. "Humans are curious creatures," she said softly. "Your ways are messy, unpredictable, and emotional. Yet they carry a power my people often overlook. You can teach us as much as we teach you. Perhaps, together, we can learn something new. Daniel nodded, understanding fully for the first time. Their journey was no longer just about appeasing an alien species. It was about exchange, growth, and friendship, a two-way path where humans could show their true value through creativity, effort, and heart. And high above the earth in the quiet hum of the ship, the Solari princess thought, humans are unpredictable, yes, but they are extraordinary. Their hearts are flexible, their minds inventive, and their courage silent but steadfast. In many ways, she realized, they were the kind of beings her people could learn from, and perhaps even admire. For Daniel and the humans, the day ended, not with tests or lectures, but with a growing sense of confidence. They were beginning to understand that their unique qualities, curiosity, imagination, humor, and cooperation, were exactly what made them remarkable. The first stage of cultural exchange had ended, but a deeper journey had begun. The humans were no longer just students, they were partners. They would continue learning, yes, but they would also continue teaching, surprising, and inspiring. As Daniel drifted to sleep that night, he felt a quiet determination. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and perhaps mistakes, yet he no longer feared them. For he knew now that what humans lacked in precision, they made up with heart, creativity, and resilience, qualities that even the wise Solari could respect, admire, and perhaps learn from. The day of the grand ceremony arrived. For weeks humans had practiced, learned, and exchanged cultures with Princess Leora. Now it was time to demonstrate everything they had learned in front of the Solari delegation. The ceremony would mark the beginning of a closer relationship between Earth and the Solari, a relationship built not on wealth or power, but on understanding, respect, and trust. The hall was enormous, taller than any building on Earth. Its walls shimmered with soft light, and patterns flowed like living water, shifting in response to the movement of those inside. Hundreds of Solari watched from elegant platforms, their glowing forms reflecting centuries of tradition and expectation. Humans were nervous. Every gesture, every word mattered. Some whispered in panic. Others tried to memorize the instructions perfectly. Daniel, however, felt a quiet determination. He had learned that sincerity mattered more than perfection. Even if mistakes occurred, effort and care would carry weight. Princess Leora appeared at the center of the hall. Her presence alone silenced the room. Today, she said softly, you will not only demonstrate our lessons, you will show your hearts. That is what the Solari notice first. Remember, sincerity over precision, effort over perfection. The ceremony began with a greeting. Humans bowed, raised hands, and spoke with measured tone. Some movements were slightly off, some words stumbled, but Leora nodded approvingly. Then came the exchange of symbolic gifts. Each human offered an item representing their culture or effort. Daniel stepped forward with a small wooden figure he had carved, a human holding hands with a Solari. It symbolized cooperation, understanding, and friendship. The Solari examined the gifts carefully. One Solari raised an eyebrow at a human who had given a small bracelet incorrectly, bending the wrist at the wrong angle. Gasps echoed through the hall. For a moment, the humans feared disaster. Daniel stepped forward. Calmly, he retrieved the bracelet, bowed respectfully, and explained, "This gift represents friendship and effort. Its meaning is more important than its shape. We offer it sincerely, and we hope you will accept it in that spirit." The room went silent. Then slowly, the Solari eyes glowed brighter in approval. A low hum spread across the platforms, a sound of recognition and respect. Daniel's quick thinking had turned a mistake into a moment of connection. Next came the ritual of dialogue. Humans were to speak in turns with Solari delegates, using gestures, tone, and attentiveness learned over weeks. This was a true test, as any mistake could appear rude or careless. As Daniel approached his partner, a Solari elder, he noticed the tension in the room. Other humans were struggling with timing, pace, and gestures. Daniel reminded himself, focus on sincerity, not perfection. He began slowly, observing carefully, responding with attention. Something remarkable happened. His partner mirrored his effort, adjusting gestures to match his tone. The humans around him began to follow suit, not through memorized steps, but through careful observation and collaboration. Leora's voice broke the silence. Observe how humans do not only follow instructions, they adapt. They communicate not with fear but with heart. This is rare among outsiders. The ceremony continued with a cooperative performance. Humans and Solari were paired to perform a simple task, creating a living art display using glowing plants from the Solari ship. The plants responded to movement, tone, and intention, shifting colors based on energy and emotion. At first, chaos erupted. Plants bent unpredictably. Humans misstepped and some delegates frowned in confusion, but Daniel remained calm. He directed his small team with gentle words, clear gestures, and encouragement. Slowly, the humans' movements harmonized with the plants and the Solari partners. Colors shifted beautifully, creating patterns that symbolized cooperation and respect. By the end of the display, the hall glowed with flowing colors. Humans had not performed perfectly, but they had demonstrated effort, creativity, and connection. The Solari delegation leaned forward, their eyes shining. Leora smiled, visibly pleased. The final test of the ceremony involved improvisation. Leora announced, "A true measure of understanding is not only repetition, but the ability to adapt in unexpected situations. You will now respond to a change without guidance." A sudden change was introduced. The lighting shifted, music began to play unexpectedly, and some plants moved differently than before. Panic flickered across human faces. Daniel remembered the lessons. He focused, took a deep breath, and led his group. Instead of freezing or panicking, they adapted. They used creativity and attention to maintain gestures, tone, and symbolic meaning. Others followed his lead. The Solari watched in silence. For the first time, they saw humans not as learners, but as partners capable of independent thought and careful action. At the end of the ceremony, Leora stepped forward. "You have done more than I expected," she said. "Many outsiders fear mistakes. They believe perfection is the only way to earn respect. But humans, you have shown that effort, sincerity, creativity, and care can accomplish what precision alone cannot. Today your heart spoke louder than any gesture." Daniel felt a warmth in his chest. Humans had been judged before by other species, often dismissed for being clumsy or emotional. Yet today, they had impressed the Solari, not by mimicking perfection, but by showing human qualities that no other race could imitate. The humans cheered softly, mindful of protocol, yet proud. They had learned not only to follow alien customs, but to show their own strengths, and that had made all the difference. Later, in a quiet chamber, Daniel spoke with Leora. "I never imagined that mistakes could be so valuable," he admitted. Leora nodded. "It is not the absence of mistakes, Daniel. It is how one responds to them. You turned error into connection. That is something the Solari rarely do." Daniel smiled. "I suppose humans are lucky in ways the Solari are not. We learn from trying, from failing, from helping each other." "Exactly," Leora said. "Your people have heart, resilience, and ingenuity, qualities that my people often overlook. You remind us that sincerity and creativity can surpass rigid rules." As the night fell over the ship, the humans returned to their quarters. The city below twinkled like stars mirrored on Earth. Daniel thought about the ceremony and what it had taught him. Every mistake, every hesitation, every small gesture had contributed to success. They had been judged not for perfection, but for effort and heart, and that was humanity's greatest strength. Above them, in the observation deck, Leora looked out at Earth and the humans below. She whispered to herself, a soft murmur only the stars could hear. Humans are unpredictable. Yes, but in that unpredictability lies greatness. They adapt, they create, and they care. Perhaps my people can learn from them as much as they learn from us. Daniel lay down that night, exhausted, yet proud. He thought of the weeks ahead and the challenges that would come. Yet he was no longer afraid, for he had seen what humans could do when they acted with sincerity, creativity, and heart. The ceremony had been a test, not of perfection, but of human spirit. And humans had passed, quietly, but brilliantly. The morning sun glowed softly over the Solari ship, casting golden reflections on the polished floors. After the excitement of the grand ceremony, humans felt both relief and anticipation. Today was different. There would be no tests, no performances, no careful gestures to memorize. Today was about understanding, reflection, and building lasting friendship. Princess Leora summoned the humans to the central hall. She stood with her usual calm presence, her eyes holding a strange warmth. Daniel walked beside the others, feeling a quiet pride. They had completed lessons, survived the ceremony, and impressed the Solari with sincerity and effort. Yet he knew this day would bring the most important lesson of all. Humans, Leora began, her voice soft but firm. You have learned our ways, and you have shared yours. You have shown patience, creativity, and care. But there is one truth I wish to leave with you today. Your people possess something rare in the universe. Not perfection, not wealth, not power, but heart, adaptability, and perseverance. These are qualities even the oldest and wisest of my people admire. The humans exchanged glances. Daniel felt his chest swell. All these weeks of practice, careful observation, and honest effort had led to this recognition. He understood that humanity had a strength that no machine, no tradition, and no alien race could copy. The princess motioned for the humans to follow her to a balcony overlooking the earth. The planet stretched below them, full of cities, forests, oceans, and deserts. From above, it seemed fragile, small, yet radiant with life. Your world is beautiful, Leora said. But more than its landscapes, I am amazed by its people. Your adaptability allows you to thrive in every environment. Your curiosity drives you to explore beyond the stars. And your compassion, it allows you to form bonds even with those very different from you. Daniel thought about the lessons of the past weeks. He remembered the gesture of peace, the careful offering of gifts, the storytelling, the games, the improvisation during the ceremony. Every moment had shown him that humans succeeded not by imitating but by adapting, thinking, and acting with intention. Leora continued, her gaze meeting Daniel's briefly. When your people stumble, you learn. When your people fail, you find new ways. You face challenges with ingenuity and determination. These qualities make your kind extraordinary. The other humans felt the truth of her words deep in their hearts. They had feared judgment, feared failure, and feared rejection. Yet their sincerity, care, and creativity had earned respect, admiration, and even friendship from a race far older and wiser than themselves. To demonstrate, Leora asked the humans to teach her one more thing, something uniquely human. Daniel stepped forward, thinking carefully. He chose the simple act of collaboration and encouragement. He gathered the group and said, Princess, we often work together not because we must, but because we care for one another. We encourage each other, help each other, and share ideas to make things better. That is a strength of humanity. Leora watched as the humans formed a circle, exchanging small gestures of support. One whispered encouragement, another offered a helping hand, and together they built a small, intricate model of a human city using blocks and colors. It was far from perfect, yet every gesture reflected thought, cooperation, and care. The princess tilted her head, eyes glowing brighter. I see now, she said softly. It is not precision, but connection that matters. Your people's strength lies in how you bring out the best in each other, even in difficult circumstances. That is something my people rarely do. Daniel felt a quiet sense of pride. This was the HFY moment. Humans had shown that they could teach, inspire, and lead, not with force but with heart and ingenuity. Their ability to adapt, think creatively, and build bonds across differences was what made them remarkable. The day continued with gentle conversations. Leora asked questions about Earth's cultures, its music, its festivals, and its ordinary daily life. Daniel and the others explained with care, demonstrating that even small human habits held meaning. Laughter, shared meals, acts of kindness, and even storytelling carried lessons of empathy and connection. Leora listened intently, taking notes, in her own way, her hands moving through the air as if capturing patterns of thought. She tried some human gestures herself, laughing gently at her own awkward attempts. The humans guided her patiently, showing her how heart could bridge worlds. By afternoon, the hall filled with other Solari delegates who had observed the humans for weeks. Many were skeptical at first, expecting rigid adherence to tradition, but as they watched the humans interact with sincerity, adapt creatively, and communicate openly, a subtle change came over them. Their glowing eyes softened, and some whispered quietly to each other. Leora turned to Daniel and said, "You have helped my people see that perfection is not the highest standard. Effort, care, and creativity matter more. Humans have a quality that transcends rules. You have shown us that." Daniel nodded humbly. "We only tried to do our best," he said, "and sometimes mistakes helped us learn. That is part of being human." "Indeed," Leora replied. "And in that your species teaches a lesson that even the Solari can learn from." The sun began to set over Earth, painting the sky with streaks of pink, orange, and gold. Daniel and the humans gathered one last time with Princess Leora. She spoke clearly, softly, and firmly. "Humans are extraordinary not because you are the fastest, strongest, or most precise. You are extraordinary because you adapt, you care, you think creatively, and you build connections. Your hearts are strong, your minds inventive, and your spirit resilient. These qualities have earned my people's respect and admiration. Remember, this: sincerity, effort, and heart can achieve what force cannot." The humans bowed, not out of fear, but out of gratitude and respect. For the first time, they truly felt recognized, not as outsiders or learners, but as partners capable of extraordinary achievements. Daniel looked around at his fellow humans. He saw pride, relief, and wonder in their eyes. They had been judged, challenged, and tested. Yet in the end, they had succeeded through the very traits that made them human: curiosity, perseverance, cooperation, and heart. Princess Leora stepped forward and placed a hand gently on Daniel's shoulder. "You represent the best of your people," she said. "Continue to share your strengths, your creativity, and your heart. They will guide you, and they will inspire those you meet." Daniel smiled, feeling a warmth that spread through him. He realized that the journey with the Solari had taught him more than customs and gestures. It had shown him that humanity itself was powerful, that ordinary actions guided by sincerity and care could build bridges across worlds. As night fully fell, the humans left the hall. Outside, Earth's cities sparkled like constellations mirrored below. Daniel paused, looking at the planet, feeling a sense of purpose and belonging. The lessons of the past weeks, the challenges of the ceremony, and the guidance of Princess Leora had revealed a simple truth. Humans could inspire, connect, and teach in ways no other species could. Above them, in the observation deck, Leora looked out at the planet below. She whispered softly, a thought carried only by the wind. "Humans, you are unpredictable, yes. But in your unpredictability lies greatness. You adapt. You create. You care. You inspire. And in doing so, you remind us that true strength is not in perfection but in heart, effort, and courage. Perhaps my people will remember this forever." Daniel walked back to his quarters, exhausted yet fulfilled. He thought about the journey ahead, the future meetings with the Solari, and the possibilities for Earth. He knew challenges would come, mistakes would happen, but he no longer feared them. For humanity had passed a test not by mimicking perfection, but by showing what made them truly special. And the Selari had seen it. As he drifted to sleep, Daniel reflected on the princess's words. The lessons, the games, the improvisations, and even the mistakes, all had led to one conclusion. Humanity itself was extraordinary, and in their hearts and minds lay the power to bridge worlds, create understanding, and inspire even the most ancient and disciplined races of the universe. The stars outside twinkled, and somewhere high above, the Selari ship hovered silently, carrying with it the acknowledgement of a truth long overlooked. Humans were remarkable, not for what they could do perfectly, but for the sincerity, effort, and heart they brought to everything they touched. And so, the story of friendship, learning, and respect came to a gentle, inspiring close. The humans had not only learned from the Selari, they had reminded the universe why their species was special.